Turn the page. Turn the page. If we all had the same Bibles and we all had the same King James Bible at that, let alone the same Bibles, we'd all be able to just turn the page something. But that's not possible in this day and age. Unless you have everybody in the same church, in that church or whatever, that's on the same. Everybody has the same Bible. Same Bible, same. No production of a Bible, I suppose. Anyway, Isaiah 36, and we're going to go over this morning or today about how the devil sits out the gate, basically. And I don't even know, you could probably title this one. I could probably title this one, I didn't think about that. But how the devil sits outside the gate. God puts his children, he has them in a hedge of protection, as you can see in the story of Job. There are two hedges, the hedge of protection and the hedge of thorns. And as you can see in Hosea, where God put Hosea put a hedge of thorns, or God put a hedge of thorns, I guess. Hosea prayed a hedge of thorns around his wife. And as you picture, the hedge of thorns would be thorns that would be a hedge. You'd have a hedge around you as though like a sheepfold would be. This is what a picture that the Lord's given me some time back, and it's been real helpful. But like the sheepfold, and there's a fold around us, or a hedge around God's children, and we are His sheep. And across that barrier, it's been said that in the sheepfold, there's an opening. Everything is enclosed, but there's an opening, and I suppose it's about 4 feet high or something like that. And there's the shepherd at night would lay down his body across that entrance. He would be the protector of those sheep, the shepherd and the sheep. Just like Jesus Christ is our shepherd and He is our keeper of that gate. And the devil can't get through that thing unless he allows him to. But the devil will stand outside just as the wolves do, and tempt and taunt and holler and cry. And he will do everything he can to get us to come, to put fear in us and to cause us to come across that barrier. Just in the likeness of what the Moabites did to Israel when they were coming across the land, going into on their trek to Canaan, and the king called Balak. Is it Balak or Balaam?
It's Balaam.
Balaam, yeah. He calls Balaam. The king's name was Balak or something, I think. Maybe that's what it was. And Balaam, he calls Balaam to come and prophesy against God's people, and he couldn't do it. But the devil had another way of doing things. That way, he didn't just stop with that. He enticed the men with their women. And they were in God's favor until they committed the whoredoms that they did in the fornication, and went and took unto themselves the women of Moab, who are the devil's representation of the devil's people. They basically served the devil, and their whatever gods, I don't remember which ones it was that they served, is a representation of the devil himself. So the devil knew that in order to get them out from under his blessing and his protection, he would have to cause them to commit one of God's, or break God's laws, in order to bring judgment against His people. And that's what he did. And this is just, these are representations or stories, just a certain, these are just two stories right there of what God does to people. Or how the workings of the devil and how God works as well. So you have a barrier, and then you have something that pushes up against that barrier, and is always trying to find a weakness, always trying to find a way to penetrate that barrier, that protection. But God is faithful, and He's always there to help us and to protect us. Now, I want to show you some things in Hezekiah, hopefully here pretty shortly. We may have to carry it over into 2 different sermons or days in order to finish this up and to complete it, because there's more to it than just what something popped in my head that we could go even further and expound upon, even more so. Now, chapter 36, verse 1. Now it came to pass in the 14th year of King Hezekiah that Sennacherib, king of Assyria, came up against all the defense cities of Judah and took them. And now you have these other places that were hopefully protected, right? It says defense cities, but evidently God, whatever the reason, God allowed them to be taken, but not Jerusalem. Okay, now we know that's the seat of that's the city of David, and it's the seat of Christ when He comes back. That's God's city, and that city would never be taken at ever. God would never let that city be taken if His people would obey Him. But they didn't obey them. He, and in His discourse, when He's making His contracts, He tells you, you obey. This is my contract. And here's the laws, and here's the things that you need to obey, and here's the both the benefits that come along with that, right? And the rights that he gives you, and the privileges. But when you cross that line and you break His laws, then punishment comes, right? But He tells you that. He tells you that. He lays it out before He ever makes a contract with somebody. And He tells you what you're getting into. Okay? So, in the new covenant, it's the same way. When we make that contract with Him now under the timeline of the new covenant on forward, it's the same way, because how do we know? He says that how should they hear except they have a preacher. Right? Mm-hmm. Now, there's different types of preachers. The Bible preaches itself. It is itself a preacher. It doesn't just we think of a preacher all the time as in the context of being a person. Mainly a man, but it could be a woman too, not in the sense that she's a preacher from a pulpit and stuff like that, but I'm talking about a woman who prophesies or is a prophet that prophesies the gospel. She tells the gospel. And teaches and tells people about what the Bible says. But that's not the only way that God preaches to people. God's the preacher, and He preaches it to people, and He makes sure it gets out. This is the written word, and the written word is another testimony of God and who He is, and His workings and how He deals with people. So, anyway, He allowed this to happen, and Jerusalem. And then to come up against Jerusalem. Well, yeah, it is Jerusalem against but he took the cities of Judah, and the king of Syria sent in verse 2. And the king of Syria sent Rabshakeh from Lachish to Jerusalem unto King Hezekiah with a great army, and he stood by the conduit of the upper pool in the highway of the fuller's field. Then came forth unto him Eliakim, Hilkiah's son, which was over the house, and Shebna the scribe, and Joah, Asaph's son, and the recorder, and Rabshakeh. No, it's E. Rabshakeh. My Bible has the pronunciations in it, so. Rabshakeh said unto them, Say ye now to Hezekiah, Thus saith the great king, the king of Assyria, What confidence is there wherein thou trustest? I say, sayest thou, but they are but vain words. I have counsel,